Hi guys, I want to take us through how to test, how to mock, yeah. But let us first look at just a recap of how to test in general. We have two functions in here. We have the first function is called double. What it does is takes in an integer and it doubles it. For example, as you can see, 2 times maybe 3 would give us 6. This other function called add two doubled values, what it does is not taking in any input, but rather it has two variables, x and y. X calls the double function with 2, y calls the double function with an input of 3. So here we would have 4, and for y we could have 6. So 4 plus 6 is 10, which is what we get when you run this function here. You can see that when you call double with 3, you're getting 6. But when you call the add two doubled values, because you're calling it with value of 2 and 3, you're getting 4 plus 6 to give you 10. So how would we test this function? First and foremost, let me first remove the aspects that are not important to us. From unit test, we would actually import the test case and the main function. The test case is going to give us access to testing functions like assert equal, assert true, those functions. The main function here is going to help us run our tests. So we have a simple skeleton here. Let us first write our first test. So our first test would be, we are going to write the result that we will get when we call the double function with, say, 9. What do we expect? So expected result, when you call the double function with 9, so 2 times 9 would be 18. So let us write the test self.assert equal expected, we would expect to be equal to the result. Same thing here with the test add two doubled values. We can write the result, which would be equal to what we get when you call the function add two doubled values. What are we expecting? Expected value would be this function. If you see, it has its own declared functions in here that are running. It's calling x, which will be, x would be 4 plus 3 doubled. 3 doubled is actually 6, so 4 plus 6 would be 10. We're expecting to get back 10 here. Okay, that's why this function as well said the result equal. We have the expected and the result. Now, if we run this test, you can see that they're all passing. But most times you would find that what if I didn't want to make a call to this double function? You see, it's being called in here. You see, there's no way of me changing. There's no way you can change the input to this function and say, let me call it with maybe 4 or 5 or 6. There's no way you can change the values of x and y. They are actually making calls to this double function. So if we wanted to have a different kind of output from these, we would actually have to mock them. So okay, first and foremost, we can mock the return value of a function. For example, the first approach would be, okay, every time the double function is called, I want it to return something. If that's the approach we want to take, we could say, okay, let's use this mock package, and we simply mock the return value. So let us declare another function here. Let us test add two doubled values, mocked return, yeah, where we mock the return values, yeah. These are mocked return values. I could even call it mocked return value. I could call it this just to explain what is happening. Forgive me if the naming is poor. So what are we going to do? We are going to use that mock function we have imported. Let us create a context with patch. In here, we are going to declare the function we want to mock. So to begin with, we begin by specifying the module where it is located. What's the name of the file? The name of the file is called main.py. So the module is main, then dot the function, which is double. You see, when you are importing this function, the module was main, and we're importing the function double. Same thing here. We specify the module and the name of the function we want to mock. Then this patch function also takes in another additional keyword argument called return value. With return value, we can specify the value we want this function to return every time it is called. For example, we can say, okay, let this function return a value of, say, 10. Then in here, we are going to now have our call to that function. The result is going to be when you call that add two values, what are we expecting? Expected would be, remember, every time the double function is called, it's going to return a value of 10. So when you call double function, we are calling add two doubled values. It's going to call this function, and here it's going to return 10. Also, it shall return 10. We are not going to make an actual call to this function. We shall just simply give it a return value of 10 here, and a return value of 10 here as well. So we are expecting 10 plus 10, which would be actually 20. If I am to now write my test, self.assert equal expected, then the result. If I run this test, remember that before, without mocking, we were expecting to have a value of 10. But now that we are mocking, we are no longer making actual calls when this double function is called. We are simply providing a return value, which is 10 here, and here, 10. And as you can see, the test is passing. What would happen? What would happen? In fact, let me show you. If I'm to put this as 10, you're going to see that the test is going to fail. If I'm to put this at 10, you will see that if I put 10, you see 20 is going to equal to 20. 20 is going to equal to 10, yeah? So let me put it back. Okay. So what would happen, guys? If instead now, I just don't want to simply mock a return value every time this function is called, but rather on every call, I want to give a different return value. For example, on the first call, I want to give a return value of, say, 7. On the second call, I want to give a return value of, say, 5. What would happen? How would I approach that? So to do that, instead of specifying return value, let me just simply duplicate this and show you that. So instead of specifying return value, we can specify a side effect. Yeah. When you specify a side effect, here I'm also going to pass the side effect. When you specify a side effect, it's going to be an iterable, yeah, that is going to contain the return value on every call. For example, on the first call, I want to return 7. On the second call, I want to return something like maybe 10. What is going to happen? On the first call, you see on the first call, we are saying let's provide 7. So in this function, add two double values. The first call, when we encounter double the first time, we are going to provide 7. The second time, we are going to provide 10. And then we add the 2. 7 plus 10 would be 17. So we are no longer expecting 20, but expecting 17. When I run this again, let me run this file again and we see. You see, we are getting back tests passing. Maybe to demo this in a way that better makes sense, we could try to declare a function called get, just to see how these values are passed. Let us call this function get two doubled values that simply returns a list of these doubled values. Yeah, it does nothing with them, it just simply returns a list. Okay, so let us import that function here. Let us call it get two doubled values. Let us duplicate this test. We are just simply going to rename it. We are going to call it get two doubled values. This time, we want to check how these values are passed, which order they are passed here. So now, since we are expecting that this is returning back a list this time, we are expecting that these values are first in the order of 7 and 10. In other words, x and y. If I am to run this again, we are calling get two doubled values. You'll find that the first value is going to be 7, the second value is going to be 10. Okay, we could even say, okay, let's first check if the first value here in the expected is actually the result. Do they match? Also, the second value, are they matching? Let me just be explicit, just to show you this, guys. Let me be explicit about it. Let's run and see. Do they match? And as you can see, they are matching. One thing you should note when you're using now the side effect, if this function is being called twice, the side effect, in the side effect here, I have to provide the return value twice. If I only provide it once, we are going to have problems because the first time here it is being called is going to be provided with a value of 7. But on the next call, we are going to get an error because there will be no more. We shall try to check in the side effect and the normal items to iterate in, from, and we shall have an error. If I'm to run this like this, we shall get an error, as you can see. If we do this, we get an error. The iteration stopped because there was no more side effect to call. So, since we have said that every time we encounter the double function, let us provide an output. So we need to always declare the number of side effects should match the number of times this function is called in this given test. As you can see, get two doubles is making the call to double twice. So we have to provide a side effect twice. So 1, 2, the return value 1 and then 2 for the second attempt. So you have seen that we can either specify the return value, and when we specify the return value in that scenario, every time the function is called, we simply give it this return value. When you use the side effect, you can specify a return value, a different return value for every call. And it's going to be done in this list here. At index 0, this is the first call, index 1, second call, like that. Okay? Now that we have seen how this works, how about when you want to mock, for example, inbuilt input? You see here, these were user-defined functions. And for example, in the main file, we have a function called double, and we are mocking it. What if I had another function called add two numbers? Add two. And this function actually takes in input from the user. It uses this inbuilt input. We say, please provide first number to add. And then we have another value called y that would be the second number. And now we want to return x plus y. It's going to be the same thing, guys. In fact, let me show that it's going to be the same thing. If I use the approach of side effect and I say I want to give different values on every attempt, I could call this we are going to call it add to. So let me import the function here. We are calling it add to. And in here, we are testing add to using the mocked side effect here. Never mind the naming. The naming is simply demo to what you're doing, but this is not a very good way of naming the functions anyway. So what we are mocking is we are mocking the function called the function now we are mocking. Since we are calling the function add to, the function actually we are mocking here is the function we are mocking is an inbuilt function. It comes from the module built-ins. Built-ins. That's the module it comes from. And the function is called input. So the module is called built-ins, And this built-ins has a function called input. So when you provide a side effect, for example, 7 and 10, you're saying the first time this function is called, let's provide an return of 7. The second time, I want to return a return of 10. That we get 17. Let us test and see. When you call that function, we expect to have 17. Let us test and see. Let us test and see. Expected and then result. When I run this, you can see that all the tests should actually pass. Let's see. Are we passing? We are actually failing. We are getting an error that says that, oh, sorry. I have a typo. This should be built-ins. I have missed an L here. It's called built-ins. And if I'm to run again, you can see here that there's no module named built-ins. Yeah, I missed an L. Let me run this again and I see. When after correcting that, when I run, you see that the test is actually passing. So this is how we can approach testing in general. If I was to go back to the other approach of ours where we were saying, okay, let us mock the return value. Let me say, okay, mock return value. Just to demo this return value, yeah. If you use the approach of return value, I'm just simply say, okay, let us mock the return value, yeah. In this case, it's not going to be a list. We are returning maybe 10. So if you're returning 10, you're going to have 10 plus 10, which would be 20, yeah. Because now every time this function is called, we are simply want to return the same value 10. And we add 10 plus 10, which will be 20. And when I run again, you can see that this function is passing, okay? As you can see here, the function is actually passing. So this is how you would approach testing in general, how to mock. You see, we always specify the module followed by the function from which the followed by the name of the function you want to mock. This is a very simple approach. I am not going to discuss the other approach of how to use mock, how to mock using this as a decorator. For now, I'm going to stick to this easier approach because this is actually, you have also seen it when you're working with a file. When you use the with clause, you actually, if it was a file, you want to, you don't have to close it manually, it automatically closes. Here in the testing, when you say with mock.patch, you're saying that in the body of this with clause, you want to provide the context within which the mock is going to be performed. You see that in the body of this with clause statement is where you're going to have the function call that would make a call to that function you are mocking within here. So let's keep it at this, guys. If you have any question, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to attend to any issues that you might have thereon. I hope this was helpful. I expect more feedback on anything that was not clear. Please let me know and I will clarify. Otherwise, this is all that you would actually have to do to mock a function. Simple concept. You specify the module and then the function. We have seen how to mock a return value, and we have seen how to mock, how to use side effects. Yeah, if you want to just return different values every time the function is called, you simply provide the side effect and you provide those values in a list. All right, I hope this was helpful. Please let me know how this goes. If anything is not clear, I will be happy to clarify more. All the best, guys. Bye-bye.